Alrighty, welcome to episode 204 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. In the only news that matters, Tesla has finally released its much-awaited Juniper refreshed Model Y into the Australian market. Currently, the standard range and long-range variants are available to order and have an initial delivery period starting in May. The refreshed performance model is expected to become available to order in the coming months. And that indeed was the most important part of this week's news. It certainly was, and welcome to the show. As is customary, if there is anyone who is new and hasn't ever said hello, please do unmute and say hello.
I'm Peter Johnston. I have actually been on once before. I'm in Brisbane and just planning a drive to Perth. So I'm coming on to just grab a bit of knowledge from you guys tonight. So good to meet you all again.
Fantastic, and welcome back, Peter, and welcome to us from the future. You're 2 hours ahead of us, so we'll try and get to your questions early on, so
Thank
that you can get some well-earned rest. Alrighty, let's go for a double. Is there anyone else who would like to say hello?
Yeah, it's Brett.
Sorry, my name is Bandula. I got my Model 3 about a month ago now. So I
Yes.
live in Bateman, Western Australia.
Oh, fantastic. Welcome, Bandula. And I think, Justin, you were just pipped at the post.
Yeah, it's Brett and Justine here. So we're in
Justine,
Perth.
sorry. Apologies.
And we've had a Tesla for just on 12 months now.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, let me just write a little note. That is Brett and Justine. Okay, let's try and go for a quadruple, which will be a bit of a record. Is there anyone else that would like to say hello?
Yeah, I was just going to stick my hand up, Brenton. I'm in Perth, Model Y owner. Got some questions. I have been on the show before, been a member for about 6 months. So, yeah, I'll just let the show progress, and I've got a question later on.
No worries, and welcome back. Alrighty, let's just go for the pregnant pause. Do we have a fifth person that would like to say hello? No, you always go too far, but that's the way it goes. Alrighty, so like I said, in the only news that matters, there is now a launch edition or launch series refreshed Model Y. And it's not a coincidence that the color shown there is glacier blue, because I happen to know of one or two people that have ordered just that car. So, who wants to start us off with the launch? Okay, I will. So, obviously, it's long awaited. I had to confess last week to being completely incorrect in my prediction of when the car would be up for sale. I said it would be before Christmas. And as it turns out, I was a shocking 17 days out in my prediction. So my bad, but it was certainly worth waiting for.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks, just a bit over 2 weeks. I was out.
Damon.
So look, it's wonderful news. It's something we always knew was going to happen. It's something that should happen, and it's appropriate. Obviously, from a personal note, I actually prevaricated for about 15 minutes from when the actual car came on to be able to be ordered, because I was really hoping for a performance version of the new Model Y. So then initially, after sort of getting over some of my disappointment, I started running a few scenarios in my little head and said, oh, look, you only live once, let's just go and buy it. And I did order it about 15 minutes later. So it is hopefully coming in May. I think that is what the website says. Delivery is expected to begin in May. Now, there is something that we're going to discuss with Tesla head office because obviously on the, and I'm just going to bring up the website, but on the 10th of, let me just bring it up. The 10th of May is the last date for Saturday, 10th of May is the last date for submissions. It's midnight for applications for the $3,500 EV rebate. Now, the only cars, this being the Model Ys, that qualify are the standard range, the rear-wheel drive Model Y. The long range does not qualify. So if you've ordered a long range refreshed Model Y, it will not qualify, so you don't need to worry about when it arrives, except obviously you want it to arrive sooner than later. Obviously, for those who have ordered a rear-wheel drive Model Y, that absolutely does qualify, and there are no number limits to these applications. It's simply a cut-off date. So obviously, as a club, we're going to strongly advocate to Tesla, if at all possible, to expedite the delivery of the standard range new refreshed Model Ys, so that at least some owners get a chance to put in their application promptly. And by the way, if you've got all your ducks lined up in a row, it really only takes a few minutes just to enter in your license details, rego details, and a few other things. I've done one application, I'll figure how it goes, but it really doesn't take a lot of time. And I'm pretty sure it's just emailed in. So as long as the email is sent and therefore received before midnight on Saturday, the 10th of May, then you are in the queue to be processed. If it's done the next day, you are not.
Harold, you mentioned it was the rear-wheel drive would qualify. What options are you limited to fit under thresholds?
Actually, because, let me just bring it up. So if we look at the rear-wheel drive, this is the launch edition, and actually it's significantly more expensive than the let's call it the classic Model Y. So from memory, I think it's $7,000 more expensive for the standard range version and $3,500 more expensive for the long range. But if you have a look, you'll see a driveway price of $70,000, bearing in mind, if we go into the breakdown, what matters is the vehicle subtotal. So you can see here the vehicle subtotal is $65,200. Now, at a stretch, with the launch series, you get any color for free that you like. There's no cost penalty even for the rather expensive Ultra Red. That is included in the price, so the price does not change. The only other option you have is black and white interior. So even when you pick that and you go into the price and view the breakdown, the vehicle subtotal is still well beneath the $70,000 threshold. So basically, for the rear-wheel drive standard range Model Y, any version of that complies with the rebate.
And
However,
probably not ordered the enhanced autopilot or full self-drive option.
Oh, sorry, yes. Oh, thank you, Steve. So yes, so very good point. So please do not, and do not ever, for any purchase of a Tesla, buy enhanced autopilot or full self-driving with the car order. You always buy that once you've received the car, and that's a separate cost. Also, I haven't exactly worked this out, but probably don't buy the charger, the home charger or the mobile charger through this order page. I'm just not certain, unless there's someone in the room that has done it, I'm just not certain whether they have a split invoice so that the value of those two accessories aren't subject to stamp duty and other taxes. So just for simplicity and to guarantee that you will not be charged extra, please do order those items, at least one of those items, but do it separately to your car order. And you can literally do that just by going into tesla.com and separately going into the shop. Make sure it's Australia, obviously, and then you can order that straight after you've ordered your car, or even before you've ordered your car. So yeah, thanks, Steve, for that reminder. That's quite critical. Like I said, sadly, the long range, its base cost, the cheapest, which is the black interior, the basic cost or the vehicle subtotal is 75,200. So that does not qualify for the EV rebate. So therefore, you don't have to worry about picking and choosing certain accessories. Now, obviously, the launch edition. Look, there's a large cohort of people, including people like myself, who are gagging for the next. We've already got a Tesla. We're gagging for the next latest, greatest model. So we're going to upgrade at almost any price. And Tesla's basically told us that price will be either $7,000 or $3,500 more than the standard price. It's all but certain, and this has happened in the past, that almost all price rises at an initial part of a model series will probably reduce down to be roughly the current price of the old version. So if you're looking for a better value proposition, then by all means delay your purchase, and it's likely that price will come down. It'll come down because, for example, for the different paint versions, you'll then have to pay for those different paints, those different colors. And of course, if you prefer Poverty Pearl White, well, then that will definitely be cheaper. Absolutely be cheaper. Also, you'll be able to get the standard aero wheels, which in the current version are the 20-inch Helix wheels for both launch versions, both launch editions. So you are actually sort of paying for nicer wheels. So hence the price increase.
And acceleration
James,
boost.
Oh, yes. Actually, sorry, James, were you just going to say, I better go to you just in case you were going to say something like that. So yeah, go, James.
No, mine was
Maitland.
just don't have to panic. You don't have to have the car. You just have to have the registered car, which Tesla does for you to apply for so if people are panicking, thinking they might not get the car, it's only the registration they need, and Tesla does that for you before you actually get the physical car. I'm thinking when I received my car, I got the registration probably 2 weeks prior to the physical delivery of the car. They said, your car's here, book a pickup time. I couldn't get a place in for 2 weeks. However, I had my registration papers and I was able to do that.
Think you're muted, Harold.
Oh, sorry. You were able to apply before you received the car.
Yeah, well,
James.
you have the registration paper. So I remember from last time I bought one, you get the registration paper. It appears in your dot direct. You have the registration paper. And I had that about 2 weeks before I actually got the physical car. Once the car was landed in Perth, they did a bulk registration of all the VIN numbers.
Okay. So it says, how do I apply? Make sure you have the required documentation to submit with your form: a copy of the rego, copy of the bank statement showing the nominated bank account. Oh, that's your bank account.
Yep.
You need nominated account number, submit the completed. Okay. So if we just read this, how can I apply for the rebate? Then I think, James, you are correct, provided you have the registration details.
Yeah, so Tesla can do that as soon as they have the VINs.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well,
so I guess we just have to lean on Tesla to register the rear wheel drives in plenty of time so that people can send that document in.
Yes. Yep. Indeed.
Even if they haven't scheduled a delivery for some time later, I guess the downside for the new owner is they might miss out on a week or two of rego, but they're getting $3,500 for that. So I think that's a fair price to pay.
I
Yeah.
think so too, particularly given that the cars would have already landed and just simply not be processed for delivery. So yes, indeed. Look, it's going to be a very interesting time in May. And look, perhaps let's hope that Tesla is sandbagging, and when they say deliveries begin in May, perhaps in Perth, because we are a different ship from Shanghai as opposed to the eastern seaboard. Wouldn't it be lovely if that ship arrived, towards the end of April or even the middle of April? Who knows? So that's certainly something that as a club we'll be asking Tesla very nicely to try and do their best to get as many refresh Model Ys applicable to this rebate, since it is a lazy $3,500 for doing very little. Alrighty. James, I'm not sure if your hand was still up, or Richard Chapman. No, it's Richard Chapman.
Yeah, Harold, do you think there's going to be a higher range non-launch version? Is that on the card possible?
No,
Okay.
no. So clearly, I think the range went up by 10 or 11 kilometers on the long range, I think. Or was it the standard range? There's no. So I guess you could say the launch edition is as good as it gets. It's not going to get any better. They're not, and the performance will have actually less range because actually.
The wheels.
Aren't the Uber turbines 22-inch, or are they 20-inch?
They're 21s. So the
21s.
So
okay.
the launch wheels are equivalent to the induction wheel on the old Y.
Right. So in that case, the performance will have a lower range than stated for the long range, and that purely comes about because of the 21-inch Uber turbines or Uber Turbine 2s, whatever they want to call them for the refreshed version. Those wheels are less efficient than the 20-inch that they're offering now, or the 19 standard aero wheels. So yeah, Richard, no more range. No, the battery doesn't look like it's any bigger whatsoever. The only slight gain in range is because of the coefficient of friction's gone down from 0.22 to down to 0.21 because of the sharper front end and slight differences in the boot.
Yeah.
Now I better get to, the gentleman that is in Brisbane. Yes, Peter. Yes. Okay, so I better get to you, Peter, because it is late for you. And welcome back, Chuck. It's actually later for you, Chuck, because you're joining us from the far future, 3 hours ahead of us. So
you can go with Chuck first.
No. Well, Chuck's all right. He's a stalwart. He's used to it.
That's right.
Make Chuck wait.
And I used to have hair. Anyway, so.
He used to have hair when he first did these late nighters, and has now lost it. So it's all good. Go, Peter.
I'll be very quick. So we're going to drive across to Perth from Brisbane in September, thanks to Rob Dean for all the stuff on your website, and Harold, I've been following you with your exploits as well. Congratulations on all that. The distances that I plan to do are fine by me. I mean, I do Melbourne, Sydney, and Sydney, Brisbane a lot, so the distances are fine. What we're planning on doing is Ceduna, staying overnight at Border Village, then Border Village to Baladonia. So they're both about 500 k's. On that road, does that seem fine to you guys?
Yeah. Okay. So the fact that you said that you're leaving in September means that everything that is in existence at the moment is immaterial for your purposes. It's
only going to get better.
That's right. So,
in fact, Harold, just to interrupt, I'm not worried about the charging.
Yep.
It's more driving that road. I mean, is it as simple as driving down the Pacific Highway, which I do 900 k's in a day to Sydney?
It's easier.
It's no difference. In fact, it is actually easier because there's less traffic. So yes, it's only a single lane each way.
Yeah,
But
so
there's
so
a
I'm
lot
not
less.
overextending the mileage.
No,
is it?
no,
Okay.
no. So if you want to bash out 900 Ks, then you will be able to do that across the Nullarbor, because there will be, probably by then there might be two sets of charges, perhaps. There'll be the WAV network charges, and there might be some NRMA charges as well
And they
across the
may actually
Nullarbor.
work.
Yes, they may actually
Okay.
work. I didn't say they will actually work. I said they may actually work. Uh, and in
I've got
fact,
my fingers crossed for Wilcannia as I drive down. Um,
yes.
always
So
easy.
look, there's a lot of learnings that have been happening with the WAV network. As a club, we're gonna make sure that the very utmost is done to ensure that these charges are maintained, because as I've been quoted to say many times, you can't just build a charger in the middle of nowhere as if to plant a flag, declare victory, and then walk
Yeah.
away. The reliability isn't everything as far as a DC charger is concerned. It's everything. It's the only thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely the only thing. And yours truly has been through more broken and not working or not working properly charges than probably anyone else in this room. And in fact, I'm about, for my sins, because I'm an idiot, I'm going to embark on another lap on Friday, going northwards. And that is on the back of the impending presumed announcement by Premier Cook and probably Reese Whitby, probably going to announce on Friday at, ironically, Mundrabilla Roadhouse,
Oh yeah.
to say that the WAV network is, for all intents and purposes, complete. So part of my little trip is to see if it actually is complete and to see which bits work and which bits don't. Bearing in mind that a little town called Halls Creek, its charges stopped working in July, and as we speak right now, it's still not fixed, 6 months later.
Okay.
But we'll be agitating, and many others will be agitating, for the WA government to commit to actually having a dedicated maintenance budget. And let's face it, these things are expensive to maintain, particularly if they're vandalised. But for your purposes, Peter, September is so far away that the Nullarbor Roadhouse NRMA site might even start working by then and be continually working by then, perhaps. And there will be hopefully a charger at Border Village by then, because I believe NRMA is waiting for some redevelopment works at Border Village to complete before they install a charger similar to the one at Nullarbor Roadhouse. So you'll have quite short gaps where there's at least a DC charger or charging of some sort, so that even if one or two are not working, you'll still be able to get through without any problems. But again, getting back to if you're comfortable bashing out 900 Ks a day, you can do that anywhere across the Nullarbor, and in fact anywhere up to the northwest of WA as well. So it's
Well,
it's all good.
we won't be doing the 900 because there are things to see, and we want to enjoy the trip as well. Just obviously I've got backup, and you mentioned Border Village, which in Rob's post talks about. And I should mention, I'm taking our long range Model Y on this trip, not the Model S, but I'm using the UMC 1 from my old Model S, and I've got 15 amp tail and 32 amp three phase. Looking at the post on Border Village, it says charge, and let's assuming NRMA is not there. Charging is strictly limited to 20 amp three phase. That's okay if you have a Model 3 or Y drawing 3 times 16 amps, but it's also where there's a Gen 2 UMC three phase comes unstuck. Do I need
the
20
Gen
amp
2
tail?
three phase, the Gen 2 three phase it's not three phase, it's single phase. The new UMC is only single phase. If you've got the older one, that's fine. That'll do 16 amps three phase, or it'll do 32 amps single phase. But the problem with Border Village, actually, I would recommend not staying at Border Village, because unless it's confirmed that the three-phase has been fixed, I believe the story is that one of the phases is missing. So you should budget to not stay at Border Village unless the NRMA puts one of their charges there, in which case that's perfectly okay. You are better off to say overnight at Mundrabilla, for example, or the one before it, which is Nullarbor Roadhouse. So
Right.
I personally would avoid. Oh, actually, and that's actually I'll rewind that a little bit. You can obviously stay at Border Village and just plug in using a 15 amp UMC single phase, because overnight you'll get 150 kilometers of range, and in fact your car is more than capable of getting from Nullarbor Roadhouse all the way to Mundrabilla, no problems, without charging overnight, even if you are staying at Border Village. But don't budget to charge on three phase. Just presume worst case is single phase. If it happens that coincides where you're going to be overnighting that day.
That was the plan. So I don't need to get a 20 amp tail, three-phase tail.
No.
Okay.
You could also stay at Eucla. However, the Eucla Caravan Park has a stated policy when you arrive that EVs are not permitted to charge by any means whatsoever.
Yeah, I've read all that. So that's
anyway, that's their decision. That's their own business decision to make. So, but apart from that, look, September is a long time in EV charging infrastructure.
Sure. The only reason
time.
we're planning now, though, is for getting accommodation. We're going to be 3 up in the car, and I wanted to make sure that we could lock it in. That was all.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, well, cool. Okay, in that case, just book it, plan it, book it, and just enjoy the trip. Just if you sort of find that you're sort of arrive at a place early afternoon, or lunchtime or something, then that's cool too. You can still explore around. So yeah, absolutely, you can absolutely book ahead, and then like I said, your journey will hopefully be surprisingly simple and trouble-free.
Yeah, Peter, you will appreciate auto steer on the long straight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which it has nothing to do. You could just strap it with gaffer tape, the steering wheel straight, and that's all it needs to do. James, you've got your hand up patiently.
Yeah, thanks, Harold. I just wanted to add, Peter, I was on the air highway we got back yesterday from a 5-week trip from Perth to Melbourne and back again. Hadn't done the air highway for quite a while, but I was pleasantly surprised. I'd say it was probably the best road that we traveled on the whole way. Really, it was it's what seems to be surprisingly well maintained, I guess, given the amount of trucks that go back and forward. So it was a really easy road to drive on. It was much harder once we got to Victoria and dealt with their roads, but South Australia and WA, yep, that's me. That's me at Mundrabilla, which is, I think we got there the day after it opened. We're, I think, probably second or third people to try and use it. So that I'd recommend stopping there, particularly if they've solved the teething issues by then as well, because we used it and it worked perfect. It ramped up to 40 kilowatts out of the 50, and then 5 minutes later the screen went black and everything just went quiet. And turns out the charger had killed the power to the whole roadhouse, and the chargers, everything just went black, all the fuel pumps, everything. So they're still working through some teething issues there. But it was great to see a brand new charger there, that's for sure.
They've had too many Jameses going through there. We have to cut down the ratio of
exactly.
Jameses.
I think the system got confused with too many Jameses within the same few days of it. But it was great to see a brand new charger there. Like, we went over mid-December and to come back mid-Jan and to have 3 new charging options with Mundrabilla and the 2 biofuel extra ones that have been added in the interim as well. It was really, couldn't believe how much easier it was on the way home. We're towing, obviously, so the range we needed every charging stop we could get. But if things improve between now and September, then I think it'll be really easy for you, hopefully. Plenty of things to see, depending on what pace you want to go at, really. But we were doing 400 or 500k a day with 2 young kids and towing a van, so that's a different equation, I think. But yeah, it was a great drive overall, really, and nerve-wracking on the way over with some of the gaps, but on the way home, now once we'd done it, we had a lot more confidence at that point, so it was good.
James,
So
out of interest, James, what was your trip average efficiency?
ooh, I think it was 310.
Ah,
We did 8,119 kilometers. Sorry, it was 293. 293 watt hours was the efficiency over 8,000 Ks with a fairly full Jayco Lark, slightly bigger than
yes.
your one, I think, Harold. But yeah, fairly full up with 5 weeks worth of stuff in it. So I didn't weigh it beforehand, but I suspect we were pretty close to the probably the 1.5 mark there, I think, overall. So
Yeah, indeed. In fact, I'm just trying to scroll down on my X account to see what my average was for the lap, but I think it was actually quite similar. Here we go. It was 294 watt hours per kilometer.
all right, so I was going a little bit slower than you then, by the sounds of it, tiny bit.
Well, my caravan's a Penguin, so it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing was that, oh yeah, here's the post. Something I wasn't expecting. These are two different trips. One is a 15,951 kilometer trip, including Tasmania, 294 watt hours. And this one was the figure eight, and it was to the exact same watt hours.
Amazing.
It's just proves we're in a simulation. Absolutely
Yep.
proves it.
Hmm.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, James Maitland, you've got your hand up patiently, and then I'm going to go straight to Andy afterwards.
Yeah, just going to quickly say for Peter, places to stop, even though you can't charge, you don't need to charge the with a long range, but Border Village is a really nice place to stop, and they're really friendly, EV friendly, even though they can't charge. They're really nice there. Mundrabilla will probably be the second most friendly and welcoming and helpful, and Majura Pass. But after that, so don't think you always have charge, because you can charge fast charge at Nullarbor, go to Border Village, have a nice nap, put it on 15 amps just to get a trickle overnight.
Yes.
But that would be the difference for me. Border Village was a really nice, friendly, lots to do, good place to stop, even though you can get a fast charge. But Mundrabilla was equally nice and welcoming.
Yeah, they have the swimming pool at Border Village as well. I think there in Baladonia were the two pools across, but don't know how relevant that would be in September. But in December, Jan, it definitely was very helpful to have those.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's great information.
Absolute pleasure. Now we'll go straight to Andy and then Brenton. And then we'll go to Chuck. So Andy, you're muted. You're still muted.
Yes, sorry.
There you go. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sorry. Yeah, a couple of questions. One is really easy. My membership's expired. Can you just put the link in how I can resubscribe? I couldn't find it on the website, I have to say. So it's probably blindingly obvious, but I've not seen it.
Ken, can you help? You're the web host.
Yeah. On the website, under the join menu, there's a renew my membership.
Okay, it's right.
And you have to be logged in first, though. So log in.
Okay, that might be right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So go to the one menu to the right and go log in first, and then once you've logged in, under the join menu, choose renew your membership.
Fantastic.
And you can either do it with PayPal, or if you want to click through and just do it with a credit card via PayPal, you can do that as well without actually having to sign up.
Okay. All right. Oh, great.
And if it all goes horribly wrong, just deposit it via bank deposit. We just have to manually process it, which might take a little while, but easy peasy.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, my other question is, I've had our Model 3 for a couple of 3 years, I think, actually. And now it's started to smell, which is apparently seems like it's a reasonably well documented issue. Changed the cabin filters, and it still does. And then I contacted Tesla, and they said, what we normally do is spray the coil with the disinfectant. Just go and get an industry grade AC disinfectant, and you'll be good to go. is that all it is? Because there's a thousand other ways people do flushing this. They try all these sorts of things. They say that I've seen videos that the air intake takes in water. The wipers. It's like a fault with the vehicle. So is it just a simple thing of spraying it and then that'll do us for the next couple of years? That's it.
Yes, because initially, before Tesla implemented a software change, there was an excessive buildup of moisture on the evaporator coil, and which is the internal one, the one that gets cold. And basically, you've got buildup of moisture. And it's dark, so you're getting mold and mildew and other lovely biological growing there. And obviously, when the car's parked in nice warmth too, it gets warm when it's parked out in the sun and all that sort of stuff. So what Tesla has done to reduce the prevalence of that is you'll notice that after you've driven your car for a while with the aircon, this is mainly in summer, of course, that when you park the car, you'll sometimes hear a fan running in sort of internal. It's basically the aircon blower, and it's basically flushing through fresh air in an attempt to dry the internal evaporator coil. And it can do that for many minutes after you've gotten out of the car. So there's nothing wrong with the car. It's just that's what it's doing. But I mean, to be honest, my car, I changed the filter at about 145,000 Ks or 140,000 Ks. And yeah, the car was starting to get that little bit of a smell. And the thing is, I've noticed the smell doesn't actually leave instantly. It takes a little bit of time as well. So filter's great, but yeah, like I said, get the industrial cleaner. I'm sure hands of aircon evaporator coil cleaner, and it's probably some sort of a bleach or something like that, an antibacterial, whether it's alcohol based or chlorine / some other base.
Yeah.
You really need to kill the spores, and then that ought to remove the smell.
Right. Okay.
And stuff like that, which they used to do in desperation, just the standard aircon coil cleaner.
And I don't know, it's just come in an aerosol and I just empty the whole can on it. Like presumably it's where you take out the filters, and the instructions actually aren't the same as on the videos and so on. They're slightly different. But anyway, it's what I can feel, which would be almost up against the filters themselves.
To be honest, I don't know, but look, I'm sure there's a whole plethora of videos that show it, or even possibly ask Tesla. But you're probably right, and it's just a matter of getting the direction, because you know how it's fairly tight space in there.
Yeah, it is.
Depending whether it's Model 3 or Model Y, or both are actually pretty tight. So, yeah, absolutely. Just do a little bit of basic research just to see what I'm sure there are videos out of people doing it.
Yeah.
But don't worry about this thing of, the air intake is not designed correctly and you're getting rainwater in. The fact of the matter is, the wettest part of your aircon is your evaporator coil when it's cooling, because it's literally ripping out moisture out of the air very quickly, which is why your car leaves a puddle of water. So when you're parked.
Yeah, okay. It's weird because, like, on any other car I've ever had, that's never been an issue. So it's just, and Tesla won't actually tell me the people I speak to say, I'm not qualified, it would need to be a technician, I can't tell you anything. So I'm going, well, right. So, but I've only done 20,000 Ks. So.
Yes, but how old's your car, Andy?
3 years.
Yes, it's the time. So in this case, nothing to do with the kilometres. So in my car,
I've had the aircon running a lot, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. So, and the point is, well, I wouldn't say it's worse, but in one sense, if you haven't done many kilometres and the aircon was moist, and then you have it parked for days on end in that same state of moisture without sort of running it, you haven't got fresh air going through it. You haven't got a fresh source of effectively clean water, which sort of probably acts to slightly clean it as it goes, as it forms condensation, a bit like rain sort of thing.
Yes.
So I dare say there's two extremes. Mine needed it because I've done a lot of Ks and obviously had
Yes.
the air running for 1,000 hours or whatever it is, 1,500 hours.
Yep.
You've probably had aircon running a lot less, but it's been sitting marinated in that state for a lot longer.
Marinating.
Yeah, 'cause
Yes.
my car's only 2 years old, so
Yeah.
but still.
Yeah.
So give it a go, and that should basically, provided you can get coverage with that cleaning fluid or aerosol, that should basically resolve the
Yes.
problem.
Sorry, just one other question. Should I have it running when I do it, or should I not?
No, I really don't know, Andy.
Right.
I just don't know.
Okay.
My feeling is that the filters are on the return air section, so if it's drawing air through, and if it's a aerosol, so it's got droplets, that would probably assist in making sure the droplets go deeper into the system, I guess. Presuming that the spray is entirely harmless. In other words,
Yes.
it sort of evaporates or does whatever it does and then sort of goes away.
Yeah.
So on that presumption, you probably are better off with the fan running.
Yeah.
Maybe better off with just the fan running, but then I'm not entirely certain on how the dampers, because I'm pretty sure the car has, in fact, the car has a couple of evaporators or coils. So look, maybe just have it on aircon, probably have it running, spray your spray, and then turn it off so
Yes.
that you're not producing more moisture that would then tend to dilute the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Understood.
Easily.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so
Ooh.
much.
No worries. All right, Brenton, and then we'll go Paul, and then Chuck, because Chuck's deep into the future, and we really want to respect his need for sleep.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'll try and keep it brief. My question is around range and battery condition. As I mentioned, I've got a Model Y, a 22 Model Y. It's got just on 40,000 Ks on it. And I noticed a week or so ago that my range had started to drop significantly. So I started monitoring it and doing some sums and watching what was happening. And today I decided to put a call into Tesla because my range had dropped down to 313 Ks, fully charged. And
Range, range.
Sorry?
Standard range or long range?
Oh, standard range, yeah, rear-wheel drive, yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I charged it overnight. I let it drop right down to 10% and then charged it overnight. We've got a three-phase wall charger at home, so...
and you charge it?
Sorry?
And you charge it to 100%?
Yes, yeah. And
Definitely. So, because that's critical, because with the standard range battery packs for the Model Ys, it's essential for accurate battery capacity measurement that it regularly gets charged to absolutely 100%, not 95%, but at 100%, preferably left until the charger says I'm finished at 100%.
Yeah, well, that's typically what I do if I
Oh,
wait
okay.
till my app tells me. But anyway, spoke to Tesla today, and they ran some diagnostics remotely, and they've told me that there's a thing called the buffer capacity, and this is to do, and I'm actually an engineer, an electrical engineer,
Yes.
so I know what's going on. And they explained the way they measure the batteries in the battery management system, and that the voltage drop between 70% and 30% is very little. So the voltage actually you're losing energy out of your batteries, but the voltage doesn't do much. And so what they do is then, some algorithms and calculate based on a few things. And then there's a buffer reserve, which normally is about 5%, but they said, but it adjusts itself on my car for some reason, which they can't really tell me. That buffer has gone out to 30%. So effectively, while the battery capacity is still there, I've lost the use of 30% of my battery. Now, what they've...
No, you haven't. No, you haven't actually. So, okay, the best way to resolve this, and just a very brief explainer, is actually can we park that, please? Because there's a little bit of detail which I'd like to get into, and it'll be useful for everyone watching. But if we can just park that for a moment, Brenton, and we'll go to Paul and then Chuck, and then we'll come back to the battery because there's a couple of nuances there.
Well, I
But
have got
Brenton,
the solution,
not
so,
lost the
but I'm
battery.
keen to hear yours. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, haven't lost battery capacity. So
Yep.
that's the bit of news, but I'll get to it just after Paul, and then we'll go to Chuck because Chuck needs to go shortly. Paul.
He needs a nap. I just ask, with the towing capacity of the Model Y, being 1,600 kilos, and I was looking at the gross vehicle weight of 2.4 something ton. So trying to work out, because a friend had asked us today about it, because he's trying to work out what he can tow and what he's illegally allowed to load up his Model Y, and then what he's allowed to tow in total. So I was sort of wondering, since you're the guru of all that, what is it that we're
I
allowed
thought
to
the
do?
tear was 1,900 and something.
Yep.
It's on the Rover registry.
Yeah.
What's the
It talked about the
GVM
gross
of
vehicle weight.
yeah.
2.44.
Oh, sorry, yes. That's not to do with the towing. I mean, in
That's
that
the car.
would
Yeah.
include the ball weight. So
Yeah.
the 2.44 would be all passengers, and I'm pretty sure it
And
would
crap
be
in the car.
the ball weight of a trailer.
Yep.
So effectively,
Yep.
the weight
And then
that
the
the
1.6.
tires have to bear. Then you got the 1.6 of the
At the
total
end.
towable mass.
Yep.
But I think the 10% roughly that your tongue weight would be adds up to the
Yep.
gross vehicle mass, fully laden with everything, passengers, the whole lot.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
All right. So, oh yes, Chuck. Sorry, actually, I think I've got another hand up. Why have I got two hands up? Oh, I've got Pete Petrosky. Pete, are you okay to wait for a sec? And we'll get Chuck first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Chuck, charging.
Oh,
Charges.
yes. I didn't actually. I'm just running. I don't actually have a lot to update this week. I think I mentioned Mooney Beach last week, the supercharger.
Yes.
But there's been no real progress that I've seen over the last week. So
no Mackay and no Townsville.
no news. No.
Just asking for a friend.
That's right. For someone who's going to be there in about a week's time, probably.
Probably, possibly.
Are you planning a speed lap, or what sort of lap?
No,
is
I'm
this
going to take it easy. I'm going to do it in about 11 or more at the worst 12 days. So no, not doing a hot lap, not doing a
Well,
10
you better say
day.
12 weeks. I was going to say, oh, that sounds like taking it
I
easy.
know, probably 11 days. And if things go a little bit pear-shaped towards the end, which I'm quietly expecting, in other words, the Nullarbor bit, it might be as long as 12, which is why I'm leaving on Friday, day after tomorrow, so that I can make it back in time for Ask Us Anything on the following Wednesday or the Wednesday week. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, I hope. Actually, a bit of bad news is that the Majura Pass temporary Horizon power installation managed by John Edwards was vandalized last night. It's possible that it was actually responsible for averting the firebombing of the service station, because apparently there were quite a few glass bottles with petrol in them and rags hanging out of them in and around or around near where the generator is. And a theory is that perhaps they, out of curiosity, pressed the on button for the generator, which then turned on, made a lot of noise. This was at 3 a.m. and possibly scared them off. They then tried to press the off button, but of course it's not just an off button. It's it turns off over a period of a couple of minutes. So then whoever they or several of them were, seem to have left, but they did cause a little bit of damage to the control board of the generator. So unfortunately, Majura Pass is offline at the moment as far as the DC charger is concerned. Then Baladonia has got a couple of minor issues and in fact, John Edwards is leaving on Friday to visit Baladonia, Kaiguna, and Majura Pass to basically refurbish and check all of those charger locations, which are not the final solution that Horizon Power hasn't yet done yet.
And the 22 kilowatt DCs are still there as a backup, aren't they?
The 22 kilowatt is at Baladonia, is still there, and there's one at Cocklebiddy. So that's the one that was at Mundrabilla has been moved to Cocklebiddy. Right. So actually, that is an independent sort of slow DC charging source. And in any case, it's also obviously by default got a 32 amp 3-phase outlet. So you can just do normal AC, full rate AC charging at Cocklebiddy, which is between Mundrabilla and Kaiguna. So that's another alternative. But
sorry, Harold, just going to say with Majura Pass, the DC was still in the garage there when I was there late last week. Wasn't using it obviously because the biofuel was working at the time, but the DC was still in the garage there as well.
Yes, yeah.
But it's expensive.
Yes, that's right. But look, to be honest, and I'm sure you, James, would agree. If you're in the middle of nowhere in the stinking heat, you'd pay $2 a kilowatt hour or $3 a kilowatt hour to be charged at 100 kilowatts, or better.
Yep.
If it was a supercharger, you wouldn't care what the price was. You're just happy to get the hell out of there. If that's what you want to do. I mean, if you want to hang around and count flies on the back of your hand or something, that's awesome. But that's because you want to do it, not because you have to do it. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. So nothing else to report, Chuck. So just nothing spectacular. I guess there's a little bit of time. It's only just into the new year as far as the working sort of week is really. I guess it was really this week really, and maybe a little bit of last week. So hopefully Tesla will get the Mackay supercharger commissioned, and some more progress at Townsville. I guess that means I'm going to have to. That's why it's not going to be a hot lap for me. I'll have to go deep into Townsville to the shopping centre and have a look. See what I say.
Harold, Chuck's showing us his map of Tassie. He's looking a bit bloodshot, so he might need to.
Yeah, I did just drop a map in the chat. There's just one more thing I was going to mention.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were being rude for a sec. Hang on, map of Tassie. Here
He probably was being rude as well, but that's okay.
No, I've just got a dirty mind. Here we go. Please. Oh, this is where Chuck's been.
Now this is just to add a bit of context. Harold's been in various Teslas to Tassie, I think 2 times. Twice?
No, only twice, Chuck. No, just the twice. So one.
Only twice.
And one without.
That's right. And so Harold often ribs me about places he's been in Tassie that I've never been, having lived here for over 45 years. And so this month and next month, I'm making it a bit of a task to tick a few boxes. And so I'm just going to provide an update to Harold each week, just so he knows knows what I've been doing. So so Cockrell Creek.
Yep.
So that's for those who don't know, that's the furthest south road in the country. So those little legs there are Cockrell Creek at the far south, Hastings Caves, just near the K there in Cockrell Creek, and a bit further up the purple bit is the Terhune Airwalk.
Oh yes, fantastic.
I thought I'd just get a few remote places out of the way there, and just the last couple of days I took the car to Bruny Island. So
cool.
I don't know if Harold has been there actually.
No, I have not done that. So you've got one of me.
There we go.
So Charles, that's quite impressive. If you put all those red lines together in WA, we call that a day trip.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you start in Hobart, which is where the giant red blob is down the corner there, and if you go up to Devonport, which is where the dotted line starts, Yeah, and keep going to the northwest a little bit, about 2/3. Yeah, a bit further back, about there. That
Okay.
is Wynyard, and you can
Oh,
get
yes.
to you can get from Hobart to Wynyard in one charge on a rear-wheel drive
Oh,
Model 3. So that's
Yep.
a bit of scale for
So,
people.
so Wynyard is actually just west of Burnie. So it's it's where the airport is, isn't it? I think that's Burnie
Yeah,
Airport. Is
that's
Wynyard.
right. Yeah. Yep, that's the one.
Now, one challenge to you, Chuck, is to go
Into
this
the
way
world.
around edge of the world.
That's right.
But if you curve around here, it's actually a dirt road, would you believe it or not? And then if you go down past here, which I forget what that's called, there's a ferry that goes across. That
So
is
the Franklin River?
Carina, yeah.
yes,
Carina's a little bit. It's a little bit. Yeah, probably pretty close to where your cursor is actually.
yes, yeah, and that is literally a goat track.
Yeah.
So I actually personally, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
It's a bit
Yeah,
tough.
that's
It's okay.
that's one that
drive.
I'll avoid. Cockle Creek was, I think, about 15 k's of gravel road, and that's the first time I've spent any length of time on gravel with the car in almost 3 years. So I'm a little bit nervous about it. I don't carry a spare tire or anything like that, just for a repair kit. So yeah, I had to do Cockle Creek just to get one over Harold there. But and on Breny Island, it's like the main road is sealed, but there's a few little side trips there as well. Yeah, I've got those ones out of the way, and I'll come back and give you more details in future meetings.
Yeah, fantastic. Apologies, Chuck, I won't be at next week's Ask Us Anything, but Pete will probably be hosting it, and it won't be recorded, unfortunately. But I will be on the one after that. So
Now that one, I'm just going to check my little calendar here. Sorry. I think that one I won't be here. Was it the 29th? I won't be here on the 29th.
yeah, that's the 29th. Yes. So the 22nd is next week. Won't be around, and the 29th I will be. But that's okay if you come in the Feb. That's cool.
Well, I'll be away, but I don't know if I'll have a signal where I am. So
yeah, no worries.
That's part of the secret of where I'm going. But all will be revealed in time.
Well, Chuck, you could be in the middle of nowhere, and if you've got Starlink,
yeah, if only.
It's everywhere. Oh, and since it just came to mind, and I'm going to go to Bandula, and then I think it was Pete, and then Damon, and then we're going to do Brendan's battery. What's to mind? Telstra has announced a collaborative arrangement with Starlink to have direct to handset, initially text messages all over Australia.
Yeah.
If you're in a black spot, which is most of Australia, the outback, you will be able to do text messages soon. So that is awesome news, and that's also going to be in conjunction, not in conjunction, but in parallel with Optus, who had already announced a similar arrangement 1 or 2 years ago. So that's great safety news.
Yeah, I saw a satellite icon on my just seeing if I have the picture here. I probably don't. Saw a satellite icon on my phone when I went to Cockle Creek.
Yes, that's
so
Apple.
That might not have been Starlink related. That might have just been.
No, that's different. So Apple have paid Viacom, or one of those satellite companies, hundreds of millions of dollars for all iPhones to have access. I think it's iPhone 14 onwards, something like that.
It's 14. Yeah.
If you dial 000 and don't get through twice, it will show the satellite symbol saying there's no network of any kind. So in Australia, if you have any digital handset that is now 4G compatible, it doesn't matter what carrier you are on. It doesn't matter, in fact, if you've got a SIM card in the phone, you can make emergency calls in Australia on any carrier that's available.
Yeah.
But if there are no carriers, then on an iPhone you'll get that satellite symbol. I believe 000 twice and you don't get through, it'll then say something like, where you've tried to make an emergency call, you can now do one through satellite, and I think it does things like you can send a text. It's a highly shrunk down, whatever, compressed text message. It's only got a few bytes, but it will contain your location and a message that says what your condition is. I think it actually asks you questions. Are you injured? Are you whatever? Blah blah. Do you need assistance? And then you can send emergency stuff. What Telstra have announced last week, and what Optus had announced last year or the year before, is effectively the Starlink mini satellites are going to act like space-based cell towers.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to send text messages like normal. Might take a little bit slower to get through. Eventually, they'll then be offering perhaps voice channels and then some very limited data, which obviously will work quite well in the middle of nowhere, but not so much elsewhere. But yeah, great initiative. Cool. All right, just wanted to get that in, Chuck, because I guess going in the middle of nowhere, which is awesome. Cool. And seeing your report about it. Better get to, if there's nothing else, Chuck, I'm happy to let you go or whatever. Or, obviously, tag, keep joining in or whatever. But unless there's anything else you've got, any other note or anything?
Yep, no, it's all good. I'll let you get to the role of waving hands.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, we'll go straight to Bandula and then Pete and Damon and then back to Brenton.
Hi, Harold. My name is Bandula and this is the first time I'm taking part in this. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, got it loud and clear.
Okay. So I have a Model 3 2024 car, which is only about a month old, rear-wheel drive, right? So charge limit. So can I assume that the charge limit should be 100%?
Okay, is it a standard range or a long range?
A standard range, please.
Yeah. Standard range. So you set for simplicity, Tesla recommends you just set the charge limit to 100%.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to actually charge it every day. Just although you can if you really want to, but the best practice is to charge it a couple of times a week, depending on your usage, of course.
Yeah.
It is important to, let's call it, regularly charge it to 100%. This is in part to answer Brenton's conundrum.
Yeah.
So as Brenton alluded to, that the Tesla person told him, the LFP, the lithium iron phosphate batteries, the difference in voltage for the whole pack from being 100% full to 100% empty is very little voltage difference, which is actually different to the nickel metal, nickel manganese cobalt, or the long range batteries, which have quite a broad voltage difference. So on the broad voltage difference, the battery management system can basically look at the voltage and go, I know pretty much within 1 or 2% what my capacity is. The LFPs, which are one of the original forms of lithium ion battery, one of the reasons why they weren't really used much in cars was they were notoriously difficult to work out what the capacity was.
Right.
So the only way it can actually do that is it actually mostly counts electrons going in and counts them coming out in the sense of milliamp hours of current going in and out. But obviously you could imagine that if you keep repeatedly doing that, you'll eventually, tiny errors will mount up and the battery pack won't really know where it's at. So therefore it's essential that what basically happens is on the LFP batteries, you charge it, there's a profile that you charge to, and once the current goes down to like 1/10 of the normal sort of charging current and the voltage is above a certain threshold, you then have, I think it's called it's like a topping off sort of charge, and then effectively it basically gets to 100%, and then it resets all its sort of Coulomb counters and goes, I'm now at 100%. Then it counts the current leaving the battery, and it tapers all the way down to 5% or whatever. Sure. So basically, yes, 100%. Set your charge, your slider, and you'll notice that your slider just has little tick marks, and that's all it has. Yeah. For people with long range cars, they'll have the same tick marks, but there'll be the two words daily and trip. And for a longer range car, they recommend on a daily basis up to 100%, up to 80%.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do a long trip, you do 100.
100%.
But in your case, absolutely 100. But don't necessarily charge your car every day.
No.
Maybe just give it a rest for 1 or 2 days in between, and that's kind of going to look after your battery well.
Yeah. So I do, I mean, at the moment, I haven't done any long trips. I do only maybe 200-300 kilometers per week, you know. So,
Yes.
So is it okay if I just charge it once a week?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there's zero issue in not charging your car for a week or so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, and bearing in mind, even if you militantly refuse to charge to 100%, it's not really like your car, it's not doing anything bad to the battery. It's just that the car doesn't really know quite where it's at.
Sure.
So then it may introduce things like putting a bigger buffer to just try and not strand you, because it can't really tell where it's at, but it does know when it's at nearly zero.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
that's just
Thanks very much for that. Another related question. So no, at the moment, if I just park the car in the garage and keep it, the charge degradation is about 1%, sometimes not even 1% per day. Okay.
Very good. Yes.
So I'm using an aftermarket mobile charger from a company called Altipower, right?
Yep.
So I'm going on holidays for about 3 weeks in a couple of months' time. Should I have it plugged in, or do I?
Yes. No, you should definitely have it plugged in. But what you could do is you could set the charge limit to say 80%,
Right.
something like that. And that will then just, it means that the battery won't always be at 100% 24/7.
Yeah.
Keep it to say 80%. And then by all means, say on the day before you're coming home or whatever, you can just, your Tesla app, just put the slider back up to 100%.
100%.
Charge to 100%. So then you'll know the car will be fully balanced or calibrated, should I say, sorry.
Yeah.
And ready for you to use unfettered when you get back.
Yeah. So I was a little bit nervous because these are aftermarket charger. I mean, those things cannot cause any issues, right?
No. So literally these aftermarket, in fact, any AC charger is not actually a charger. It's just an intelligent light switch.
Right.
That's all it is. The charger has no means to do anything bad to the car whatsoever.
Right.
So yeah, no, it doesn't matter what the brand of charger is, AC charger.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
No problem. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you.
No worries. All right, now we're going to go straight to Pete Petrosky, then Damon, then Brenton.
What I wanted to say, you've already said, Harold, which was Telstra and Starlink, but I will add 2 other points. So Optimus is in Australia. There was a message by Tesla AUNZ on X. It's the 1-to-1 life-size figurine. It's only in 2 stores in Sydney at the moment, but hopefully, we might get a figurine here in WA as well. And 2, our chairman was on ABC Radio this morning, and I believe James rang in as well, told it was a really great phone call about his experience with his caravan and charging at Bundrabilla. So that really added to the story. So the interview is 5 minutes, but if you wanted to play the ABC's edited version, I think it's only like 30 seconds. So, whenever you feel like playing that to start a discussion on that topic, it's in the chat menu. It's in chat. So, feel free to.
We'll try and, it's a really busy night, so we'll see how we go. But if we run out of questions, we'll definitely go to that.
Just leave it up.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Damon.
G'day. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I got 2 things. Christmas Day, I blew my fuse for my accessory 12 volt in the back of the car. Had a lot of trouble finding the correct layout for the fuse box. Ended up finding the correct drawing layout on service.tesla.com. They got big library there of electrical diagrams, service manuals, diagnostic and everything. really recommend if you need any info to go on the service.tesla.com. Yeah, so I found the correct one there. Anyway, and the second item, today ended up my car's on a flatbed of a tow truck. Supercharging at Eaton Supercharge on the way back up to Perth. Halfway through the supercharge, got a whole bunch of errors come up, and one of them seems to be the high voltage battery. Ended up continuing the charge up to added 85 kilowatt hours to the battery, but ended up not able to get it into the drive. Air conditioning was on and off a bit as well, which was one of the error codes. So that's going to be trucked up from Bunbury up to Perth tomorrow.
Oh no.
So a lot of, I'm just looking up some of the error codes, and a lot of the people are saying it's only the 12 volt low volt battery, but there's one there, like I've got acceleration at top speed reduced, which is a BMS error code. Then there's power reduced, electrical system power reduced, adaptive ride control unavailable, unable to drive, lots of errors.
It sounds like the 12 volt battery, but I hope it's not, in the sense that then I hope Tesla don't invite you to pay for the flatbed.
Well, but they initially, the person I first talked to, they said it looks like the 12 volt battery, and I go, can I talk to someone in the tech? One of the techs. So they called back and said, techs looked at the error codes. There is a high voltage one error code there, so they're covering the cost because it's out of normal warranty. It's still it's still under the 8-year battery. Yeah. So they're covering the cost for the tow. Well, yeah, the tow as well as my hire car.
Right, cool. Hopefully then for Tesla's sake, it isn't just the 12 volt battery, and because sometimes something like that can make all the systems throw all sorts of error codes because their sensors get out of spec, under volt and stuff, and go all crazy.
Because I said if it's just the low volt, if it's just the low voltage battery, I could just change it there and then, but they said no.
Okay, cool. Oh well, at least then, if they've taken the initiative to say no, this is something more serious, then at least they'll follow through and at least pay for the flatbed. But yeah, sorry for your inconvenience. That's a bit of a shame, but these things happen.
At the end of the day, it didn't slow us down too much. Just the hassle of getting a hire car and just slowed us down 2 hours. But yeah,
right. Yeah, it's still unpleasant.
You don't want your car on a flatbed.
No, if it was a Rolls Royce, they'd insist that it had a car cover so that us plebs wouldn't see such gracefulness being on the back of a flatbed.
Yeah, and then trying to explain to 2 young kids, you just have to go with it. You have to be adaptive.
Yes, indeed. Just like your suspension, you have to be adaptive over the bumps.
Yes, with no error codes.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, there's good and bad news there. Okay, so Brenton, getting back to you. So when Pete and I took identical brand new standard range Model Ys when they first arrived in Perth at the end of August 2022, I think it was then.
Yes.
We basically got we've basically got CAN bus dongles hooked up to the cars, and when the cars were literally brand new off the boat, the buffer was about 3.6 or something kilowatt hours. And as we were going along our journey, we were doing it in opposite directions, going around Australia. Our buffer got up to, I think it was 12 13 kilowatt hours. And that was kind of depressing because when you look at your indicated range, it was just plummeting. And it's like, oh man, you know, we fully charged these cars and it just wouldn't look like they were going to make it. Now, the thing is, the way Tesla's battery system works is, and the way you can see this as an engineer, and I am one myself, is if you get, probably the best value proposition is if you buy the sexy buttons from Enhance Auto. Don't buy the buttons, just the controller. And with that, you'll get the wiring loom for the Model Y, which goes into the back of the center console. But just make sure you specify that. Now with that, you can then download the app Scan My Tesla, or actually the sexy buttons has got some parameters it shows as well, but you can just use this other app and combine it with your Enhance Auto sexy button controller, and that will give you all of the battery CAN bus status. And that'll show what's called the nominal full pack, which is the absolute capacity, total capacity, and your buffer. Now, if it is true that your buffer has gone up to, say, let's call it something extreme like 10 kilowatt hours. Oh, by the way, Peyton and my car, soon after we finished our laps, basically those buffers went back to sort of 3.4 or 3.2 kilowatt hours. So sort of back to normal. So, and there was no real explanation why it did that. I mean, I surmised that it was because the cars were kind of literally brand new, as in new to Australia or new to Tesla. They were just being built for the first time. Maybe there was some experimentation or calibrating or something weird going on. But anyway, what actually counts is your nominal full pack. The buffer is sort of intended that when you hit that buffer, well, what it does is basically gets the actual measured capacity, subtracts the buffer, and whatever that level is, when it hits that level, that's called 0% as far as range is concerned. So yes, it's very plausible that if the buffer goes up for whatever reason, your indicated range at 100% will follow suit. The point is, unless your battery actually has lost capacity, which it almost certainly hasn't, it's not like it's gone, it's just not choosing to show it to you right now. And you can dip down. So if the buffer is something silly like 10, you can absolutely dip down until you're down to 3. Because that's what all our normal cars do on a daily basis. When you get down to 0%, you've actually got 3.4 or 3.6 or 3.2 kilowatt hours of battery left. And they leave that buffer because sometimes, especially in a cold climate, the battery pack's warm. It sort of loses some capacity, and what Tesla's trying to avoid you doing is bricking the pack by literally going to true zero, which will brick the pack or severely, I think it causes lithiation and various other, some irreversible chemical reactions that can't be reversed and then actually does lose capacity. So I think the best way, rather than circling around asking a technician or them doing telemetry or whatever, making the statements they've made, if you're super interested in it, just get one of these CAN bus dongles. Like I said, probably as a value proposition, getting the Enhance Commander, it can be useful because it's got a whole lot of various other features that you can use that are good to use. And that way you can then, and by all means, report back on Ask Us Anything what you've come across, what you've seen. And you'll invariably find that if this buffer is for some reason high, it will probably on its own accord return back to a more normal state. And then your apparent problem will basically neatly disappear.
Yeah, that's my concern. And yeah, I understood once it was explained to me. I can see what's happening. As I say, I'm not too concerned that there's actual loss of capacity with the battery. It's only the indicated range. But I don't want to And maybe you can tell me what happens when you get to zero. I mean, even though I might
Yes.
still have that 10
well,
kilowatts there, does the car start screaming at me saying you've got to stop?
no. So when you're, well, in your case, because your buffer is so high, all it'll do is your battery meter, which shows kilometers, will be 0. And actually, Shane Parker, Shane, are you in the? I don't see Shane. Shane's actually gone negative by quite a few Ks, or at least like minus 1.6 Ks. I presume he's done that. I don't know whether that was appeared on the battery section where you show kilometers, but I think it just goes 0. It just shows 0 kilometers range. Shane, what does it show? You are there.
Sorry, what I was only just got on and I'm
had,
distracted. What was happening?
remember we had that bet when you were towing that horse float and you said, "Ah, yeah, I'll make it to Williams, easy piece of
I
bliss."
made it to Williams.
Yes,
Leave
you
it
did.
alone. I made it to Williams.
Yes, and you did it at, you arrived at the supercharger at minus what, 1.6 Ks?
Something like that. Yep.
So
No,
where was the
1.6%. Minus 1.6%.
Oh, so does it show?
I only ever.
So on the battery, you know where it's got the little green battery symbol, when it shows percentage, does that go minus, does it, when you go below 0?
Yep.
There you
It's
go.
not green anymore. It's not green anymore.
That's right. It probably turns red. In fact, it would turn red.
Yeah, it goes
So
yellow
Brenton,
and then it goes red.
yes. So Brenton, what you would get
And
is
it's a similar thing at, where was it? No, it wasn't Horse Creek. Yeah, Merrin, yeah. No, yeah. It's happened a few times. And no, I haven't heard skull and crossbones. Yeah, sorry.
So
Yes.
yeah, well, yeah. So Brenton, it will go negative. It'll show negative. But like I said, if you've actually got a dongle, and you can see that your buffer is unusually high, it's perfectly okay to dip into that on the presumption that your battery it's a standard. Are you a standard range or a long range, Brenton?
No, standard range. LFP.
Standard. So presuming that you have taken your car up to 100% and the BMS is fully calibrated, then there is nothing wrong with having a usable amount or a nominal amount of, say, 3 kilowatt hours in your pack. Obviously not for too long, so while you're driving, getting somewhere, but it's very important, it's critically important to not let your battery fester at such a low state of charge. It's super important to start charging it, even if that's just a 10 amp UMC on single phase.
Also, I'd and I think Harold can attest to this, maybe, allegedly. If you do get down to that low, don't draw very much power rapidly from your battery. So
yes.
Yeah.
So
So
Nicole,
if you're right down to 0 or near 0 or just below it, make sure you're accelerating really, really slowly and really steadily, because what happens when you draw hard on the batteries is that any one cell might drop below the cutoff voltage for your battery pack, at which point it will just shut off altogether. And you've still got a little bit left. You might have enough to get the next kilometre to the charge point or wherever you're going to. But if you suck on it really hard, the battery voltage will drop further than what it would if you were sucking slowly. And it'll shut down.
Actually, Shane, what you get, and I've had it once, what you get is system shutting down, everything shuts down, pull over safely, and you get no accelerator, nothing. Your car is coasting, and the worst thing is if it's slightly uphill, it's gravity. Gravity is a myth. The earth just sucks, and it's basically sucking your car towards the center of it and back down the hill. So you get, once you hit that cutoff voltage, literally the high voltage pack says that's it. Anything to do with traction, anything to do with the high voltage section is turned off. Your aircon will still run because that's on, your fan will still run because that's on the 12 volt side, but anything that touches the high voltage portion of your battery pack stops working literally immediately. So it's critical, when you're at low state of charge to take it easy. And in fact, you'll actually see acceleration limit coming in when you're below 10% or 5%. You'll actually see little dotted lines in the upper trace of when you put your foot down, you'll see a green line going upwards. At the top of that, when you're in a low state of charge, you'll see little dashed lines, little grey, darker grey dashed lines, indicating that's your acceleration limit. And that's what it predicts is the limit of what you should do to avoid the chance of, like Shane described, just one of your cells or one of your, well, it is basically a cell or cluster of cells, basically touching the magic minimum, in which case the BMS just rightly says, that's it, party's over, no more juice for you until you come to a stop and recharge. So yeah, so Brenton, definitely use your engineering curiosity to delve into the CAN bus. As a bonus, you'll not just get the battery pack, you'll get the thermal system. You get quite a few tidbits, which is always good to nerd out on.
So where do you buy these, the sexy buttons?
Just Google sexy buttons. It's Enhanced Auto. They're based in Norway, I think. I think when I got them, they actually are dispatched through the Czech Republic or Romania or something. But they're online. Just look up sexy buttons. But like I said, I recommend, unless you want the actual sexy buttons themselves, which do interesting things, you can the cheapest thing is just to get the commander with the correct wiring loom for your model of car.
All right. I'll look into that. But yeah, in a nutshell, what Tesla told me was it'll come good in a month. So I've just made a note to monitor it. And if it's not an issue, then that's fine. If it is an issue, I'll get back in contact, because they said that based on what they've seen, it'd be a warranty claim if the battery really had lost that capacity. So I'm not really, and I don't think it has. I think I understand what's happening, so that's fine.
So how old's your car, Brenton?
It's a 22. It's done 40,000.
Okay. No, that's unusual. I mean, and I don't know why it would happen. Look, it's something that could literally resolve itself on the very next software update.
Actually, if I just when I first saw something unusual, it was after a software update, and I charged the car to 100%, and I went for a short drive to the shops, maybe 1 or 2 kilometres, that's it. And I came back and I noticed, shit, it's at 80%. The car had gone to 80% from a short drive. And I thought, I've just had a software update. Maybe Tesla have got some analytics running in the background, doing something. Oh, well, never mind. I'll just fix it up. That was only a week or so before I started noticing it. So it seems like I lost that chunk after that upgrade, and I don't know why. It just suddenly went from 100% to 80% in 1 or 2 kilometres.
Yeah, no doubt it's your buffer. And like Tesla said, it'll probably, like it did in Pete and my car, it'll probably just resolve itself. But like I said, by all means, it'll be super interesting to see just how high that buffer is. I mean, if it's plausible, it could be 10, 12, 14 kilowatt hours. And let's face it, on a 55 odd kilowatt hour pack, that's a substantial slice that the car isn't showing you as usable capacity.
Yep. Okay, I'll let somebody else have a go now. Rightio. Thanks.
No worries. James.
There's a question from Rebecca Murray in the chat. She's messaged me. She wants to know what's the best way to charge from solar during the day. She's got a Tesla 3-phase charger. She's got 3-phase solar. But any advice for her?
Okay, so on the presumption that you will have probably a 5 kilowatt inverter and 6.6 kilowatts of panels, so effectively, well, in summer between probably 9 till 3, you've probably got the best part of 5 kilowatts. Then obviously, depending on what the rest of your house is using, whether you've got ducted air conditioning, which is very power hungry, or if you've got a few split air cons or whatever, the absolute maximum you're going to have is 5 kilowatts. So obviously on a three-phase house or three-phase charger, the most your car can draw is 11 kilowatts, which is far beyond what your solar can produce. So at a rough figure, you want to, let's just say we start at the best case, which is 5 kilowatts. So you basically get 5,000 divided by 3 divided by 240 is just under 7 amps. So your maximum setting for 5 kilowatts is, let's call it 6 amps. Unfortunately, the minimum setting for a three-phase for the car is 5 amps. So the least that your car can draw on three-phase is 5 times 240 times 3, which is 3.6 kilowatts. Something else you could do is if you've got a UMC, so that's the portable charger, the universal mobile connector, that's got the 10 amp plug, you can just plug that into a power point and draw 2,400 watts, which is roughly half of what your solar would be producing. And that is probably more likely to be what your actual surplus would be a lot of the time. So if your car is at home for a lot of the day or most days, during the middle of most days, then that's kind of the simplest to more guarantee that you won't be overdrawing from the grid if you don't really want to do that and just use the solar.
That's the thing. We've got the air conditioning, and I do try, if I'm going to do it, doing it in the afternoon when the house is quiet and there's not much going, like all the washing's done and everything.
Yep.
But I just want to know how I know I'm only using solar or not power.
Okay, so it depends on what sort of telemetry you get from your inverter. So your inverter's probably got an app, depending on the brand.
Yeah.
Some inverters can actually tell you what's leaving the house or what's entering the house. If the installer has put a power meter for the inverter, this is separate to your Western Power meter, but a separate meter
I think so.
that can actually measure what's going through your house. Now, if you don't have that, you can only make a rough guess. Now, one thing that can help you with that guess, well, there's a couple of things actually. If you've got if you've got solar, you've got a digital meter.
Yeah.
You can, and if you just take a photo of that meter and Google that brand, it's a Landis and Gear, or I think it's a Landis and Gear meter, and it'll have like a model number on it, model name, and you can look up the instruction manual for it, because you'll notice there's at least 2 buttons, and one of them acts like a mode button and one sort of advances that mode or whatever. So at a basic level, say you got your house, it's middle of the day and you got aircon on, whatever, just you're using it normally, the car is not charging. Then you can look on that meter and the meter will tell you whether the house is drawing or providing power, like what it's doing. Because your solar, your inverter will be going flat stick, so it'll be producing 5 kilowatts. So then ideally, the meter will tell you that it's exporting a certain amount of kilowatts. Let's call it, or hopefully 2.5 kilowatts or 3 kilowatts export to the grid. If it's doing that, then like I said, the formula to work out the power for 3-phase is the number of amps that your car's drawing, and you can change that in your charger setting. The maximum value is in single phase is 32 amps. The minimum is 5, but when you plug in the 10 amp adapter, you'll only get 10. So the maximum will be 10, and you can dial it down to 5 on the single phase UMC. The way you work out how much power the car is drawing or would draw is you get that amps multiplied by voltage, which is 240 volts roughly in Perth. That's for the single phase one. For your wall connector, that's 3-phase on a 3-phase house. You get the number of amps times 240 times 3, because there are 3 phases. So that's how you can work out what your car is drawing. The only bad news is if you're drawing through three-phase, the minimum the car can draw, which is at 5 amps, is 3,600 watts. So I find it questionable if you've got an aircon on that your house would have that much surplus. But look, if it's close, if the surplus is 3,000 watts and the car pulls 3,600, well, then the vast majority of that charging is coming from solar anyway. And you shouldn't get too obsessed with trying to charge on nothing but solar purely, especially when you have standard solar installation of, say, 5 kilowatts, which is probably what you have.
Harold, without having to do any maths, the app on your phone shows you how many kilowatts you're drawing when you're charging?
Oh, does it do it to a decimal place,
No,
James? Or does it
but
just do the
it doesn't
nearest
really
kilowatt?
round it. It says 2 kilowatts, 3 kilowatts, but it gives you an idea of where you
Yep.
are.
Yep. Yep.
What app are you talking about, James? The Tesla
The Tesla
app?
app, yeah.
Okay.
When you're charging, so it'll show on the charging section how many kilowatts it's actually drawing, and you can actually reduce or increase the amps up to either the minimum of 5 or the maximum according to what you've got charging. So again, UMC 10 amps is the max. For the high power, for the wall connector, it's 16 for a three-phase house.
Yeah, well, I've got it set at 16
Yes.
now,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I start charging at 11:45, and it's normally charged fully by about 2 most times, most nights.
Yeah, so you're actually better reducing the current and stretching out the time, because then
Oh, it makes it cheaper?
No, it's the
well,
same
yes,
cost.
no, you're drawing less. You're drawing less of the grid, because when you're at full rate, you're pulling 11 kilowatts, which means even if nothing was turned on in the house, you're using approximately half of solar compared to grid, or should I say equal amounts. You're using effectively 5 kilowatts of that 11 kilowatts is coming from solar, ideally, and then 6 kilowatts roughly is coming from the grid. If you stretch out the time, so you start charging, say, from 8, because let's face it, the sun is actually still quite high at 8 a.m. You'll be surprised you'll get more than half solar at 8 a.m. If you slow down the charging and stretch it out, then you're more likely to absorb more of that solar. Because what you really don't want is for any solar to go to the grid. You want to basically use it all to yourself.
Yeah.
Whether for your house and your car. But again, one of the simpler methods, without having to really think about it too much, is if you just plug in your UMC instead into a power point, just draw the 10 amp single phase, in other words, about 2.5 kilowatts, and then allow the other 2.5 to go to your house. And then you can start charging your car sort of at 9 o'clock, and well, depending on usage, it'll probably finish before 3 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca,
Or 4 perhaps.
how old is your solar system? When was it installed? Do you remember?
It was only installed in about 2022.
Okay. And towards the end of the year or beginning of the year?
No, it was towards the end because we got it just before summer, so we could use the solar for the reverse cycle aircon.
Okay. And do you know what brand your inverter is?
Yes, I just sent the photo to James. We've got
I've put it in the chat.
So far.
Sorry, let me have a look. Okay, I can't see.
No, James, you sent it to me.
Oh, I just sent it to you. Yep, sorry, I didn't send it. Send it back to you. Put it in there now. No, it's in there now. That's my solar.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me just.
It's
once it
uploading
comes
now.
up.
It's
Yep.
the
Okay.
so far one.
2 seconds.
There, it's in
It's
the
just
chat now.
wearing. Yeah, I just got to wait for it to finish downloading, and it is still. There we go. So far.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that brand. It's probably a Chinese brand, most likely. Do you have an app that came with that?
Yeah, on my partner's
Actually-
phone, not on mine.
On that screen there, it's hard to see, but this looks like almost a knockoff of the Sunny Boy I've got. You can see it right there. It gives you the
Solar.
it's producing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, power. The power is no watts because it's obvious. Oh, because it's probably nighttime.
Yeah, it was
You
just
can see the
before
histogram
sunset.
there.
Yeah.
So, but you've produced a total of, oh no, today, nearly 41 kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
So,
sounds like
Rebecca,
a 5
is your
kilowatt
car
system.
home all day?
At the moment, because I'm on holidays.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a teacher, so I'm on holidays at the moment.
Yep.
It's during the week when we're back at school.
Yeah.
I really can only charge on the weekend during the day. So that's what I wanted to know. How do I know I'm actually charging on solar rather than using the power? But I think, like you just said, if I just use the UMC, then I'm pretty right that it'll take longer.
Yes.
But I won't be drawing anything more than what
On a typical day, Rebecca, I'm assuming you've probably got kids at home as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a typical day, when you're doing your typical stuff, go down and have a look at how much your house is using, and then you know what your capacity is.
How will I know? I'm using the digital meter?
Using that little meter on the front, it'll tell you how much you're producing, how much you're using.
Oh, okay.
Now, Rebecca, your inverter come with an app? I think you nodded.
Yes. Yeah, Garth, my partner, has it on his phone. I've never bothered. He just showed it to me then.
So there's two types of monitoring that you'll have on that app. You'll have one or both. So the one that you'll definitely have is what's called solar monitoring. So that's only going to tell you how much power your solar PV system is producing at any one time, or how much energy it's produced over a period of time, say during the day. So you don't need to go out to the meter to see how much solar is being produced, but you do need to go out to the meter if all you have is solar monitoring to see how much your house is drawing from the grid or how much is being exported to the grid. Now, if you also have what's called grid monitoring set up on your app, then you should be able to see all three variables. So one being how much solar is being produced and what portion of that is being exported to the grid and what is being self-utilised in the home. And ideally, you'd also have your total consumption. So if you can see all your four figures there, then everything you need should be on that one app on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have the solar monitoring, maybe Google SOFA solar monitoring and see if there's a grid monitoring add-on that you can add. If your system was installed late 2022, I would be very surprised if you didn't already have grid monitoring.
Okay.
So you should be able to see everything you need to know on that app.
Okay.
If you can't.
So I could look, are you saying, sorry, I'm just trying to be practical. If in the afternoon I think, oh, my car needs a charge, I can look on there and go, right, we're only using this bit so I safely use it without going and using normal power.
Basically, you need to know three figures. So number one is how much power is your solar system producing?
Yep.
Number two is how much is your home using?
Yeah.
So let's say your solar system is producing the full 5 kilowatts, which is most likely the capacity of your inverter.
Yeah.
And let's say you're using 6 kilowatts in the house, then you obviously know that you don't have any
charge
put into the car.
Yeah.
If you're producing 5 kilowatts, your house is using 3 kilowatts, then you know you've got 2 kilowatts spare to feed into the car. So that's basically the equation. That, it's pretty simple arithmetic. Mm-hmm. And all those figures should be available on your app, especially
only if it's got a meter, Pete. Only if they fitted a secondary meter.
And they would have had to have. That's why I asked when her system was installed. They would have, for solar emergency management, they would have had to have installed one of those meters if it was installed in late 2022.
I've actually got instead of doing all this maths, what I would say, because I'm a teacher as well, and it's probably just easier to say on your tariff, you're on a flat A1 tariff, you pay the same amount of money for your electricity during the day or during the night. So when you're at home on holidays on the weekend, charge your car during the day, because that'll mean you're using 100% of your, at the moment, any solar going out, you're getting 3 cents for it. It's not worth caring about. So charge your car all during the day, every day. Just put it on as low as it can go. What it means when you're at home, and it doesn't, because if you charge at night, or if you charge on the day, you can use the same amount of electricity. It just means that instead of wasting 3 cents solar, you're getting the 32 cents back. So don't worry about doing the maths. Just put it on the lowest setting. If you've got UMC, put it on UMC at 10 o'clock in the morning and leave it running all day. Don't have to do any maths, don't have to figure anything out. That'll save you the most money you can.
Or even 9 o'clock, because I think Edmund sent this, and this is sort of, the scale's a little bit difficult to deal with, but you can sort of see that on a 5 kilowatt system, there's quite a few hours that you're maxed out. And I mean, people's results will vary, of course.
Yeah, I
So
actually
by
have that same inverter as Rebecca, Zophar inverter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you should be getting about 4.8 kilowatts an hour.
Mhm.
So what I normally do is around that time, I will just dial down the wall charger to 4 kilowatts. And then leaving probably about 1 kilowatt just for appliances like your fridge or anything that needs power itself during the day. So right now in summer, probably about 9 o'clock to about 3 o'clock, you should be getting about 4.5 to 4.8 kilowatts an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, Rebecca, like James sort of alluded to, the simplest is just try and charge your car all day during the bright part of the day, from say 9 to 3 or even 8:30 to 3:30 or something like that.
Mhm.
It won't necessarily mean that your car will be purely charged by solar, but at least you'll absorb all of the energy of the solar for your own use rather than going out to the grid. And that's the cheapest thing. You can sort of get tied up in knots to try and wring out that last few cents of value, and that just spoils your unless you want to nerd out on that sort of thing, which some people do, and that's fun sometimes. But yeah, the simplest is the UMC, because it's low power, just set it on 10 amps, 2.5 kilowatts roughly. You may or may not use a bit of grid, but so what? At least you'll mostly use all solar, or you'll use all of the solar that you can get, that you're making. And let's face it, when you're at work, your car's not home, you'll only be able to do it during the weekend. You will probably have to, you might as well, but depending on how much you use your car, the UMC might not be enough during the weekend. And anyway, when you're back at work phase, you're not really in a saving phase. You might as well just, when you get home, just plug in plug your car into the the wall connector, and be done with it, because you want your car charged. And
Look,
you know,
I've gone
use
from
it
having $120, $130 a week petrol bills to about $15 a week charging it. So it doesn't worry me. I'm just trying to use the solar and know when to use it. But your advice
that's such a good
is
point, because humans are so people are just mad. I mean, and I mean that in a quirky way. You're dead right. We were so accustomed, we were marinated to the idea of $150 a week in petrol, and go, yeah, well, that's just the cost of living. You know, that's what you do. We then get an EV, and then suddenly $12 a week is too expensive, and we want to try and save that last $12, and we'll drive out to shopping centers and park in the plugged into a free charger, basically earning ourselves $3 an hour sitting in the car, thinking we're getting a good deal. And yet, that's just what our little brains convince us to do. So
my simple plan is that's all I do. On school holidays, charge in the day, starts at 10 o'clock, finishes at 3 o'clock, because that's good for me. But my only caveat is, like, tomorrow's going to be a stinking hot day. If I come and turn my air conditioner on, I'll turn the car off, because I know I can do both, but it's going to use my more than the solar. And if my car doesn't get charged today, it doesn't matter. You'll get charged tomorrow. I'm not doing hundreds of kilometers, although I am driving to Kalamunda tomorrow, but that's a different story.
Can I ask, are you doing this for the environment or for your wallet?
No, just curiosity. I've got the solar panels, and we put them on there, and then we got the car. So the idea was to use, the solar for the car. But I'm scared. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And I don't know how to find out. So
So my advice would be, for the environment, it makes zero difference, because if you don't use that solar generated electricity, it means your neighbour or someone else is using it. So solar is going to go to waste. So whether you put it in the car or not, you're not helping the environment any more or less. So as far as the environment is concerned, shouldn't even be a factor in your decision making when it comes to this. So then if it's for curiosity and you just want to play around with it, absolutely. As Harold said, nerd out on it to your heart's content. If you're doing it for economics, for your wallet, try to make sure you're not being penny wise and pound stupid. So what could happen is, you're trying to finesse it so that, you're saving those last $2 or $3 every week. And then you find that you weren't able to do a trip with your car because and that has cost, a few $100 or what have you. So, I would just I wouldn't even worry about it. What James does is probably a good sort of in between, but I would definitely not plugging the car in during the week and running the battery down to save it for the sun on the weekend, because invariably there will come a week when you'll get caught out and all that good work would have gone down,
Yeah. I'm trying to get work to put a charger in so I can charge it on their solar, but
that would be
haven't had any luck yet.
That would be 100% ideal. Yeah. And
Rebecca, they don't need a charger; they just need a PowerPoint that you can use. Just a
but
PowerPoint.
it's right back down the back of the school with the wood tech kids, and I'm just worried. So I need.
Oh, that's my people. Come on,
up the front.
They're wonderful people.
But yeah, as James has said, all you need is an outdoor PowerPoint. Ideally a 15 amp, ideally a 32 amp one, but if not, even a 15 amp one will do wonders, because you'll have your car sitting there for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. You're a school teacher, probably even longer. So yeah, you'll the best thing you can do is convince your school to put in an outdoor PowerPoint for you.
Well, I bought the car because I live in Quinns and I travel to Glen Forest every day. So 18 months I've owned the car. I've put 45,000 Ks on it.
Yeah,
very good.
I do a lot of Ks, yeah.
So about double the average. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've saved a lot in fuel costs and in servicing costs.
Service.
Yep.
Yeah, everything.
Yep.
And
don't worry, I brag about my car to everyone.
And the biggest problem you've got anyway, Rebecca, is you have a teenager at home.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to come. I've got one too. They'll come home, turn the aircon on, stick their one jumper in the dryer for half an hour to dry, and run their hair straightener. And so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. I've been meaning to come on quite a few weeks now and ask, so thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And look, and please feel free to come on at any time and ask any question, because I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to ask a dumb question," but there's no such thing. Almost every week, even us crusty old farts learn something new. Genuinely learn something new that someone has told us who has only just bought their car. And
well, James works with my partner, so James has come up and visited me and helped me, and so it's been good. I love my car, rave about it all the time.
Very good. You just need to spread that knowledge to everyone else, because
I just booked in to get my wheels rotated. I couldn't get an appointment until bloody end of February.
The 28th of February, let me guess.
Too many freaking Tesla owners on the road now. So
yeah, if you really need it, you can try and book in the O'Connor store. I mean, that's down.
I went to O'Connor.
Oh, okay. So no,
I'm back at work, so it didn't work.
Yeah, no, I was up till the 28th.
I think there's some techs are off, still on leave, because they've got to burn off a bit of leave, and they're also going to be busy with deliveries, because deliveries will be cranking up, and sort of everyone mucks in together to assist with deliveries. So yeah, unfortunately,
I just went to the Bob Kane here. Instead of $80, it was $280, but it's done now. So They've got a Tesla technician. I felt pretty safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. But no, congratulations.
James.
You've done a very wise purchase.
Yes.
There's
Go on, Shane.
there's another way to get you always charge off solar, isn't there?
Yes. But it's a bit more expensive. I just have to come and get your solar panels. That was impressive. I visited Shane's house and he has I thought I was at the Meriden solar plant out there. I think he's second only to China in deployment of solar panels.
Nah, mine are all Gumtree panels, mate.
Yeah.
Gumtree.
Food for thought.
$5, $10 or $15 each.
Yeah.
I don't think I've paid more than $15 for a solar panel yet, except for the ones on the caravan. They were a bit more.
Oh gosh, I paid 15,000.
Yeah, but Shane's cheap.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I am cheap. Yeah.
But in talking about being cheap, Shane, the last thing I'd say to Rebecca is don't be conned like lots of people are into buying a Zappi or some other type of charger.
Yeah,
It costs $5,000 and will save them 3 cents a day.
Yeah,
I'll never get it back.
Not worth.
Don't worry about it.
Harold's suggestion of getting a 32 amp plug for the UMC and doing that. That's the go.
Yeah,
You
one of
can
the
go all the
teachers
way
at
from
school got a
5 amps
Zappi.
to 32
Yeah.
amps.
It costs like $3,000 and you're never at home during the week, so you don't use it. You'll
Yeah.
never return the money.
Be like a 20 payback period, and the unit will probably fail before the 20 years. So, as James said, you'll never get your money back.
Yeah, so with the Zappi, you're effectively prepaying $3,000 for this future free electricity that you're going to hopefully have time to put into your car. But unless you are literally home-based, it's never going to happen. And
But
even
if
if
you're home-based, you're not using your car.
Yeah.
Anyway.
well, yeah, true. Well, that's kind of right too. But even if you're sort of a quasi, you do long
Work
trips, but
nights.
you you work nights. Then it's still simpler if you've got solar and you've got all day to absorb it. Even on a 10 amp UMC, you're doing 15 kilometers of range an hour. In 8-9 hours, there's over 100 k's a day that you can do on solar. So, yeah, there's the fun or satisfaction of getting it precise and precisely putting in zero to the grid and not pulling anything from the grid and all that sort of stuff. But it makes zero economic sense, and you should only do it if, again, you want to nerd out on the hardcore nature of optimizing everything to the nth degree. But yeah, just keep it simple. The fact that you've actually got it, even if you had no solar and you were paying 30 cents a unit, you're already paying a quarter of the price of petrol without the solar. And if you factor in the maintenance, you're even further ahead. So yeah, it doesn't matter.
Charging from the UMC is probably cheaper than buying a Powerwall 3 and then using the Tesla app,
Charge on
which will
solar.
give you a charge on solar.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's an expensive
That's
solution
Powerwall.
if that's all you're trying to do.
Yep.
Yeah, Steve, Rebecca's got 3-phase, so the Powerwall 3 wouldn't work for her at this stage. So
Well, it would work a little bit. It would still buffer. You still have net metering between phases, so it would still help, but it's just not worth it. It's just too expensive. If it was $5,000, yes, but because then you would do things like you would then go on to the daytime saver tariff,
Midday saver rate.
midday saver, where you can make sure your battery is full by 3 p.m. and then you can ride out the 3 to 9 p.m. super sting rate of 50 cents or 51 cents per kilowatt hour.
That's exactly what we do. Single phase with 2 Powerwall 2s, and I know it's taken me a while to work out that I need to set I've needed to fudge the Powerwall settings to say consider any power from the grid between 9 and 3 as 1 cent, and anything outside of that as $1 a kilowatt hour, and then it does what I want it to do, which is load up off the grid. The algorithm it has though is pretty impressive because it literally knows that one of the cars will be plugged in at 11 a.m. and you'll see the power draw off the grid drop right at 11, and then as one of the cars kicks in. So it's pretty smart. It's worked out like when we use power, and it worked great, but it's taken me a while to get to this point. But yeah, three phase. Less
You also have
useful
the
for any-
option of setting the scheduled charging to stop at a certain time. So I have mine when I'm on grid, not from charging on solar. So sometimes you need to charge from the grid. It's because I'm on midday saver, I get the schedule to stop at 3 in the afternoon.
Yep.
Or if you really want to save
it-
money, buy yourself
charging
a second
schedule.
Tesla, drive
Yeah.
one day, leave the other one at home to charge. That'll save you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah,
Like
that only cost you $50,000 to buy a second one. Yeah, that's probably
Like,
not economic.
I don't like use any I mean our cars are too old to use to charge on solar feature any, but the power's so cheap, whether it's either coming off our own solar or the grid, that I just crank them at 32 amp single phase and just that's it. I don't care about fractions of a cent. And in fact, we've got free supercharging on both our cars, and it's not worth my time to drive 8 minutes down the road to plug it in to get free power. It's so cheap. Why would you?
Exactly.
Like,
Your time is worth more to you
yeah,
than
yeah.
than $1 or $2. It really
in
is.
the fact,
That's
yeah.
And no matter how rich you are, no matter how wealthy you are, the one thing you cannot buy is time.
Yep.
And we've all allocated a very strictly limited amount of it too. So we need to enjoy it.
When I left my car to my daughter and I was overseas, I got the bill and it was only $18 for 300k.
There you go.
Yep. Yeah,
Would,
exactly.
Would a Powerwall 3 still not be worth doing, even on your three phase? I mean, I know you're only backing up one phase, but
No, because Nigel Saunders was explaining to us that at the moment, because of a ridiculous quirk in a combination between what the Powerwall 3 apparently does at the moment and what the WA regulators require it to do and to be controlled, when they, on those rare occasions, if they abate solar production, they literally, their way of abating it is a dry contact relay connected to the internet, which effectively turns off the Powerwall altogether, disconnects it.
Can't you go for the
hang
option
on,
where sorry.
And the way it's been installed is what it then also does is if there is a power outage, it does not back up that phase. It turns off as well and disconnects itself during a power outage. So a Powerwall 3, on the presumption that what Nigel's installation is now being done consistently in Western Australia, at least for the time being, if that is the case, the Powerwall 3 is in many respects useless.
Whoa, okay.
All of what it's stated it could do. It'll still do, it absorbs solar,
Battery,
it'll still
yeah.
displace, it's still a battery, it'll still, and the great thing is, in Australia, thankfully, if you pull in 5 kilowatts out of 2 of the 3 phases total, you can then inject 5 kilowatts out of the other phase, and they call that quits. They add them up and it nulls out. In some jurisdictions, you'll get 3 cents per kilowatt hour on a phase that leaves the house, but you'll pay 30 cents per kilowatt hour on power that enters on another phase. That's not net metering. But in WA, in Australia, we have net metering. So single phase does work, but the Powerwall 3, as currently installed, so it seems, is so nobbled as to be less than half of its features, basically, at this stage. And hopefully it'll change.
I'll stop recommending it at work then.
Well, maybe it's like an asterisk and say, for now.
Yeah, sure.
Surely we can't be that different to the rest of Australia. I know WA is special, but we're not that special. We can't be that special forever. Hopefully.
Okay.
All right, we're going past 9:30. We're going past our 2-hour limit, and we should try and, for cleanliness or for, no, that's not cleanliness, for whatever, doesn't matter. For whatever reasons, for good reasons, we should try and keep to that limit. So are there any sort of closing-ish questions or comments before we start to wrap this show up? Oh, Shane, yes, go.
Can I be evil and ask one question? I charge off by cones pretty much every night. Sometimes, like more and more frequently, it seems, the car shuts down charging. Like it'll charge for half an hour, and then I'll just go and unplug it and plug it in again, and it'll start again. But the car stops charging for unknown reasons. And
Does it say? Does it
the
say
only
anything?
message
Is there? Yep.
the only message the car gives me is charging equipment not ready.
That sounds like no power.
Yes, there's
So
definitely power.
yes, no, but I hope that the contactor in the cons isn't getting dicky, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's it could be the contactor in the cones getting dicky, but it connects, it charges for an hour, charges for half an hour, charges for 2 hours, charges all night. I'm wondering if there's any other way I can get a more detailed error message. Like, is it a low voltage? Is it that it actually shut down?
You're quite
There
remote,
is.
Shane. Are you getting fluctuations in your power? Is there a threshold of the cones? Like if it goes between
Well, it's
232 or
it's running off my off-grid setup, which is
Yep.
kind of what I want to know if it's a
Oh,
low
that's not
voltage
dodgy at
thing.
all then. So is it single phase or
No,
three
it's
phase?
not at all. Not at all dodgy. No,
Is
it's
it
three
single?
phase. It's
Oh,
charging.
it's three phase.
It's
Okay.
charging on three phase. It's charging on three phases. At usually at 5 amps on 3 phases.
Yep.
So
What voltage are you showing
just
roughly?
230,
Oh, that's a little
like
bit.
230, bang on the nose.
Yeah, okay. That's a little bit low, but then that's a valid grid voltage. Look,
Yeah.
when you go into notifications, you know how you've got the little bell icon on your screen? It usually has a list of the last few notifications. So if you jump in your car when when you notice it happen, it might be there, but I just don't know how many error messages the car has to do with charging. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
A blanket statement like equipment not ready is pretty broad.
Yeah, that's the only one I've seen.
Yeah, right.
And maybe the simplest option is to just borrow another cones off me or anyone else and just try a different cones charger and see if you get the same problem or not. Might be the quickest way to find something.
Yeah.
or I've got three phase. I'll borrow your cones because I'm grid power and see if it does the same.
Or you even send Tesla a message, service app, and just ask them if they can provide any more detailed info.
Yep.
If you borrow James's cones and you get the same result, we know it's your power.
Yep.
If
Yep.
you lend
What
me your
range?
cones and it works, then we assume it's power again. So,
Or you can
either
borrow
it's-
one of mine, Shane. I'll be leaving on Friday at Sparrows, but you can, if you ring me another time, you can pick it up on the weekend or something. I've got a
Yep.
spare one that's not being used.
Okay. Well, I could do swapsies with someone too for a week or so. Because mine's been through the ringer, so it could be the cones.
Yeah,
be there.
mine's sitting down in Fremantle, not being used. So if you feel like a trip to the coast, you're welcome to it. I only bought it for the Nullarbor trip. It's a month old. I've used it 3 times, and that's it. So I'd happily have someone use it and get a bit more value out of it for a bit. See if it helps solve your problem.
Yeah, well, it's a diagnosis problem is what I'm after. Is
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
Trial and error.
where is the
Yep.
issue? Is it
Process
my
Is it
power
every
supply?
day? Is it every day, Shane? Now these days that it happens?
Ish, yeah, maybe not quite, but close. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So it might take a week. If nothing happens for a week, then you're probably sure that it's the cons.
yeah.
Probably.
It's interesting because Damien's cones, I think, had the similar issue, or had something funky go on, and his has got to be about the same age as mine. But
I fear
I
they
do
might
believe
be
Heat
wearing
Treat is
items.
nicer than mine.
Yeah, they might be wearing items whereby, yeah, we might have to have a bit of a deeper look, just in case
Mm.
there's something that might be common, that might be a wearing item that maybe simply replacing the contactor in it might make it work
Might
better,
fix it.
perhaps. Yeah, might fix it.
Shane,
Uh,
if
I
you
might
check the chat,
take you.
sorry, Shane,
Okay.
I've just sent you my mobile number via chat direct message. If you want, if you feel like reaching out, if you want to borrow it for a week or two, that's all good.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, James.
Cool.
All right, Hamish, you've got your hand up patiently.
Yeah, quickly. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I've got a Model 3 that I use, and I've been up north a few times to Mullawa and such like. I sleep in the car, drive back from there, and it's been great like that. I'm just driving across to Canberra for a few weeks, and I just wanted to know if I haven't been on here before. I've just been listening to everybody this evening. Where can I go for some good pointers about precautions and what I need to do? I mean, I've got PlugShare, so I've got a pretty good idea of what's available en route charging wise. I'm not too worried about that. It's a long range as well, so I'm pretty good with the range.
When are you leaving, Hamish?
Middle of Feb.
Okay. It's a little bit late tonight to do it, but if you can please, and I won't be here next week, but if you can please come back in 2 Wednesdays, the 29th of
Yeah.
January, then we can do a deep dive. So, but
Okay.
broad brushstrokes, you need to have a spare tire. If you're a member of the club, you can borrow one for free. You should take a cons, so a 3-phase adapter.
Yeah, I've got
Again,
one.
you got one, perfect.
Yeah.
You should also take your UMC.
Yeah.
As a backup to that. You should take a Type 2 cable.
Yeah, got
and
that.
then after that, you should bring a large dose of flexibility, because that's always useful in changing conditions. So it depends on how quickly you want to traverse across. It depends on whether you want to pre-book everything, all the accommodation and all that sort of stuff, or whether you want to sort of be more flexible and somewhat wing it.
I sleep in the car with the AC on, and I mean it hasn't used too much battery when I've done it in the past, so I'm happy.
Oh,
to
okay.
do
Well,
that.
if you're comfortable in doing that, well, then you've got every flexibility. It doesn't matter where you are, and then it's just a matter of just a little bit of basic contingency planning. So one very quickly, one great tip when you're sort of doing outback road trips is never go past a working charger. So even if it's only 100 k's down the road, and there's another charger in another 100 k's down the road, if you come across that one and it's working, the rate of charging will be the same. If we're talking AC charging, and in fact even DC charging, sort of to an extent. So you might as well be topping up as you go, because it breaks up the trip into little sections, which makes it a little bit more refreshing and whatever. And the good thing is, when you then fairly fully charge at that location, if the next one's working, great, you can charge there as well. But if for whatever reason it's not working, then there's every chance that you'll easily be able to make it to the next one without having to stress out about it. So that's the main principles. But what we can do is go step by step to each of the charging locations. A lot of it at the moment is very fluid. Like I explained at the start of the program, unfortunately, Majura Pass, which has a generator and a fast DC charger, has been vandalized, but that will hopefully be fixed by the start of next week. A lot of this stuff is very fluid.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. I'm not in a rush to get that. One question though, Hayden to Nordsman. Has anybody done that track along there? I've driven it in the past, and it was good, but it was all unmade up.
Yes, so it's all dirt road. Yes, you can do it. John Edwards has done it in a Kona, so in a long range Tesla there should be no issues. Just make sure you're fairly fully charged. Are you doing that because it's a shortcut, or you want to do it for touristy reasons.
I like the route across there. You've got McDermott Rocks and things like that to stop at and things on the way. Yeah.
Cool. No, cool. So just make sure you're fairly fully charged at Hayden at the WAEV network charger there. And
Last
obviously you can also
question.
charge Brookton as well along the way.
Yeah. Last question as well, very quickly. With regard to the spare wheel tyre, how do I arrange that through the club? Who do I speak to?
Okay. So you can send an email to secretary@tokwa.org.au, or you can ring 6262 3131.
Okay.
You'll get on to me and then we can just arrange it. It'll be like early February where you can pick it up, and we leave it in a depot in Malaga, and you just collect it from there and return it to there.
Yeah.
And you just need to specify whether it's a Model Y or a Model 3.
Yeah.
And you get like a Browmac skinny spare kit in a bag, which has the jack and all that sort of stuff. And then one of the last comments very quickly is you should go to Super Cheap Auto or similar and get one of those unvulcanized tire slug repair kits.
I've got
And
one.
also bring,
I've got it already.
great, perfect.
Okay.
And also have a portable compressor.
Got one too.
If it's like a Ryobi based one, then do bring the charger and an inverter if that's what it needs, or get one of the corded inverters that just runs off the 12 volts cigarette lighter thingy, and then you're good to go. As Shane would attest to, it's amazing what those unvulcanized rubber slugs can do, even on a sidewall of a tire that's rather large gash.
You might need 6 of them, or 3 of them. Sorry, 3 of them. But yeah, actually, Hamish, I just chucked a couple of links into the chat as well of some videos that we've made about our long distance travel and charging and all the rest of it.
Brilliant.
So,
Yep, got them. Yeah.
And
Okay,
I put a link in there.
hey,
I put a link in there. with
Sarah
the
just
article.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll get on to them. Thank you.
Sarah just threw in the comment about getting a 2-way as well, taking a 2-way radio.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
can
No,
talk to the truckies.
yeah.
Hamish, we're going to finish soon, so make sure you get those links off the chat, because once we finish, you won't be able to.
Yeah, just click on them, Hamish, so then you'll open up various pages, and then that way you'll have that.
I'm literally doing that right now as we speak as well. One very last thing. I know we're 20 minutes over. I've got a fridge as well that I used to use because I've done the trip before in Fiestas and Ford Fiestas and things like that without any trouble. I've got a 12-volt fridge in there, really small one, just big enough for a bottle of wine and stuff like that. Is there any way on a Model 3 that you can use that or not?
Yes. No, just on the 12-volt outlet. So you've got, unfortunately, Model 3 only has the outlet in the center console.
Yeah.
So you'll either have to put your fridge in. Yeah, if you're going by yourself, then you could, if you could fit it in the footwell of the front seat, then that's perfect. Or in between the front and the back seats, or in the boot if you've got a long cable or an extension cable for the Model 3.
Yeah, we've have to do a few technical videos.
And if you're
a technical one on the caravan at a later time,
sorry, Shane, Shane.
EVs.
No, that's Hamish listening into the video.
Following along. No, that's not me. That's not me. Well, it is me, but it's not me.
Sorry, I thought you were being rude there.
Charging the car.
Sorry, Hamish, if you could please just turn that off, because we can hear that very badly. Otherwise, I'll have to mute you.
Here's how much power you can get. I really don't need to hear myself. Wherever you are.
Right.
On our trip and all across
Sorry, who's doing it? Hamish, is that you playing that
No,
video?
it's not. It's not.
3-phase socket.
Oh, it could be me.
This.
Oh, it's Carmen.
Oh, sorry, Carmen, I just muted you, so just turn that off.
Okay.
Sorry, Carmen. You can unmute yourself once you've turned it off.
Yeah. Harold, thanks very much
okay.
indeed for that information. That's great. And the links as well, everybody else. Really appreciate it.
Second thing,
Yeah, no worries, Hamish. We'll
to connect that to the car.
you've still got it on. Sorry, Carmen, I had to mute you again. It's still playing on your computer. Yeah, so Hamish, yeah, do come back in a couple of weeks, and we can thrash out a little bit more detail and all those and any sort of tips and tricks that we can impart. But
No,
yeah,
that's
it's
fine.
a pretty straightforward journey. So you're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Alrighty. Any last minute questions from anyone else before we wrap this up? No, I think we're all good. Okay. Alrighty. So Pete, just check oh, yes, you are there. Cool. Awesome. Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this as if I didn't already know?
As always, stay safe, especially you, Harold, on your upcoming trip, and good luck. And
Thank you.
stay sustainable and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have an awesome week, everyone, for those going to be joining Pete next week. And in YouTube land, have an awesome fortnight. And I really do look forward to seeing you on the next episode of TOCWA's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
See you guys.